It's the second hour of the show, and our co-host slate is just multiplying. Sean Stires, Vince DeDario, and Jesse Stires now popping in for some rapid fire tonight. How are you, Jess?
I'm doing pretty good. Taking a break from work to hop in here and talk for about an hour, and then I'll go back to work again.
You'll actually have less than an hour because we do have South Bend Cubs baseball coming up.
Oh,
So we're out at 6:40 tonight. So we left off. You were on Monday's show. Before we jump back into some Notre Dame football talk, I want to make sure that we don't end the show and not have a chance to talk about the bachelor party dilemma that you brought up last week, because we teased it last on Monday and then we didn't get to it because we ran out of time. So any update? So I'll kind of set this up. Jesse had a bachelor party weekend a couple weeks ago. He and a bunch of his friends did an Airbnb in Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, up by some water and lake and all that.
Dang,
kind of
it's
stuff.
far.
So everyone had to pay $350, for their part to rent the place. Pay for things that they had to pay for 3 nights, $350 for 3 nights. So a week before the big shebang, one of his friends who had already paid his deposit said, "Hey, I can't make it. My cousin's joining the Navy. I got to go do this, thing." But he wants his money back, and he had started bugging Jesse for the money back. So I know Scott L. Esquire was one of the people on the Champions Lounge, Irish Breakdown Champions Lounge, who imparted some very, good words of wisdom for Jesse. Jesse, what's the update? Has this been settled? What's going on with this?
Still ongoing, unfortunately. So earlier
you
this
haven't
week,
talked to him about it, is what you're saying?
No, I've talked to him about it.
Okay.
So earlier this week, I basically was like, "Hey, my best man handled all the money. If you want to figure it out, you need to text him." And so he sent him the Venmo request for $350. My best man declined it without saying anything. And then he texted me and said, "Yo, what's going on?" He declined the Venmo request. And then Matt ends up texting him and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry to be like this, but, someone's got to eat that money. So if you want to text everyone individually and ask, can you get your money back? That's what you're going to have to do, because I'm not messaging these guys to get more money out of them after getting money from them the last 2 weeks." And so he proceeds to text me and he's like, "Hey, I don't have any of their numbers. Can you text them for me?" And I told a white lie and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll text them." But I didn't know what everyone's going to say. I've talked to everyone about it already. And we all agree that he's got to eat it. Is
everyone just going to give him $50 back? I mean, that's just not the way things work, I don't think,
Yeah. And so I'm letting it blow over, and I'm going to text him probably this weekend and say, "Hey, I texted everyone and no one wants to pay you back. I'm not eating the cost."
Here's what I would do. I've been thinking about this, Jesse, because I agree. At this point, late notice, all these different guys involved, you're probably not getting the money back. If I were you as a friend, I would just say, look, you're not going to get your money back. You want to go out, I'll buy you a couple beers, a pizza, whatever. Just patch it up somehow like that. I feel like it's a bit of a reach to expect to be getting that money back when you're bailing just a week in advance.
Vince, this money was also paid in full back in April, early May.
Correct.
So you can't tell me you need the money all of a sudden when 3 or 4 months have passed.
Well, he wants the money back because he didn't get to see the fruits of the money. That's why he wants it back. Now, look, number one, the excuse wasn't good enough. Number two, it was too late. So you got to eat it, man. I'm sorry. You paid the money. You said you were going to do this. The whole trip was planned based on what everybody was going to pay.
Correct. We would have picked a different house.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, dude. I appreciate that something came up apparently that is more important than me, which is not okay, but whatever. But no, you're not getting your money back.
He also can't make it to the wedding. He can't make it to the bachelor party or the wedding.
Oh, wow.
Just to the confusion, ND Sailor, he is not the best man. The best man is the guy who is trying to settle the
middleman
with this other guy. The best man has become the middleman.
Was he in your wedding or was he just a buddy? Okay.
He was just a buddy.
Okay. Well, he's a buddy now. I don't know if it's going to be just saying.
Like I said, I know, Vince is even too cheap to, buy him a beer and some pizza, but I would.
I am. I think that's going too far.
If he's your friend, I would at least try to patch it up with that. Buy him a couple beers.
Sure. I get
whatever.
that. I understand
Vince
where
is
you're
not
coming
spending
from,
money on anyone whose last name does not begin with D. So,
but here's the thing. If I was your buddy and I had paid $350, which would have been a huge stretch for me, but then I couldn't go for whatever reason, I would not ask for my money back. I would not do that.
If the money was that important to you, you wouldn't have gone off.
I wouldn't have gone in the first place.
Right.
I wouldn't have gone in the first place.
You either don't go in the first place,
Yeah.
or you're saying at this point your obligation was more important than the $350.
Yeah.
And you have to eat it at that point.
I have 100%. I do feel very strongly about that. Like if I would not have been happy. Well, first of all, if I had paid $350, I don't care what the excuse was, I would still be going to the party. I would not be going to the excuse because I would
money spent.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm booked. I can't go.
did you have any kind of heart-to-heart with him, like Scott L. Esquire suggested?
I'm waiting towards kind of the back end here where I have to break it to him and just be like, hey, it's not going to happen. Like, did something happen where you really need this money? Is something going on? And then I'm going to say, well, I paid $13,000 this month for my wedding. So
right. I just dropped 13 grand. So
seriously,
suck it up, Buttercup. All right, let's get into some Notre Dame football. We did get to go see the first day of Notre Dame football practice today at training camp. Vince, I'll start with you. Fill in the blank. Quarterback CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey were blank at today's first practice.
This is tough for me. They were up and down.
I've been thinking about it all day, baby.
They were up and down. They were up and down, but I'm not worried.
This is an easy one. CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey were taken advantage of by a really experienced defense at today's practice.
Ooh, I like that.
This is a top-level defense in the country. Let's not forget that. I know there's a new defensive coordinator, but this is one of the most talented secondaries in the country, one of the most talented linebacker groups in the country. And so you want your young quarterbacks going against a defense like this in practice. It's going to challenge them, and it's going to get them ready for that first game. It's the first practice of the season. The defense always wins day one. I'm sorry. It's no reason to overreact.
Yeah.
These are inexperienced quarterbacks going against highly, highly touted defense. Like, the reason why Notre Dame made it to the national championship was because of this defense last year.
This is the best defense. This is the best secondary that they're going to play all season.
And that
includes
they see them every day.
That includes the playoff too, by the way. Best secondary they're going to play. So it's going to make them better.
Yeah, they were not good, but they were also not horrible because of everything that you're talking about. I mean, you talk to any NFL quarterback, and he's going to tell you, especially early in camp, like when they're just starting to let it fly a little bit, you've got to take your chances. You've got to find out what you can and can't do, who you can and can't test, all those different kind of things. Because like Archer is saying, and it's a fair point, taken advantage of by a guy who hasn't played a collegiate snap yet, though, in Tae Johnson, who we'll talk more specifically about.
It's much easier to play safety than quarterback as a first-time player.
It is. And, does it put a little bit more concerns into your head? Of course it does, because you never want to see interceptions like this. But the secondary was very good. The defense was very good. And, like we really haven't even talked a whole lot about the defense, and we'll have to jump more into that tomorrow, because we obviously everyone wants to talk about the quarterbacks today. But, again, they were not great. It was a bit of a letdown to see what we saw today because of all this anticipation when you have a total of 4 interceptions on day one, and especially when that day one is the only live stuff that we're going to get to see for the next month until the season does kick off. But, again, I'm not, is there some concern? Sure, but I'm not overly concerned because the secondary was just lights out covering guys today, and that's a really good sign. Okay, I mentioned Tae Johnson. He had 2 interceptions off of CJ Carr today. Here's Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, Tae is, he's one of those guys you just love to coach. He enjoys it. He's grateful for the opportunity. He's an extremely athletic player. If you listen to Tae, he'll be the best wideout and the best DB, And he was pretty good in high school at both, too. But he's learning the skill set that's just not natural, right? There's natural skill set that he has, but there's also a skill set, the consistency, the trust, those type of things that it takes to be an every down player. But what you saw today was a reflection of how he's prepared from the spring. You go back again and you do it in the summer, and you're doing it again in fall camp. And so he's learning what's expected, and it's helping him play fast so he can use that athleticism that he has.
So there's Marcus Freeman on Tae Johnson. And guys, again, it's day one, but is Johnson going to be hard to keep off this year, do you think?
I would say that he was one of the two best safeties on the day. And after day one, and he's playing the position that is opposite Adon Shuler. And so that also helps. And so I think there's going to be a rotation at safety. Now the question is, what is that percentage going to be? And right now he's put himself, if he's not in the driver's seat, he's darn near close to it after day one, but he had a really, really good day. And if you can stack really, really good days, that's a really good thing for him.
I think absolutely it's going to be hard to keep Tae, as Marcus Freeman says, Tae off the field this season. And I think Vince brings up the number one point. He's playing well in the most vacant position in the secondary right now. Leonard Moore and Christian Gray are going to be your guys at the corners, and that Adon Shuler is going to be at the safety. That other safety position is up for grabs. I know Luke Talich ran with the ones today, but that easily could be Tae Johnson in a week or maybe tomorrow. That's the whole thing. And so, like Vince said, there's going to be some sort of rotation, especially early on in camp. But I have no doubt that he will be no lower than the 2 deep by the time the first game against Miami comes. And he'll be a special teams guy too. Someone who's going to work in a lot of nickel and dime packages, that sort of thing. So he's definitely going to be on the field. It's just a matter of what does that percentage look like from the beginning of the season towards the end of the season.
Tommy read my mind. You know who else had multiple interceptions on the first day of camp? The one and only Kyle Hamilton. And that's what it reminded me of being out there today. I mean, to see Tae Johnson, because you talked about the way he climbed the ladder to make the one interception. And, the deep ball, maybe a little bit more forgivable when you've got pressure in your face and all that kind of stuff. CJ did look maybe a little bit, he was trying to sneak that ball over Tae Johnson. He's 6'2", he's not Kyle Hamilton, but he is long. And that's the thing that I'm going to say, all these guys in the secondary now, and we're going to talk about Leonard Moore here in a minute, there is length in that secondary now. And these young guys are long and athletic. That's some of the biggest difference in, when we go back to what we were talking about with Carr and Minchey, what they're facing now compared to what they would have been facing just 2 years ago in a Notre Dame secondary, night and day difference. And the play of Tae Johnson today just exemplifies that. So I think he is going to be a nightmare. He is going to be really hard to keep off the field. And again, they're going to have a lot of options in that secondary because of the depth that they've got at the back end with guys like Johnson and obviously Stroman and all, and you've got Talich out there still as well, who was running with the ones today. I just think that Johnson is going to be really hard to keep off the field this season. Michael wants to know, what's the story about Cam Williams? I mean, the story right now is there is no story.
He's running with the twos. Yeah. He was on the good field.
Yeah.
He wasn't over with the scrubs.
JV. Yeah.
So, I mean, he's
calling these guys scrubs.
Well, he was there with the young guy. How about that? Is that better?
Thank
Is that
you.
better terminology for you?
Jeez. We're still playing at Notre Dame. Dang it.
I mean, you're not wrong, but it was the walk-ons and the freshmen that were over on the other field. So
still learning group.
That's correct. And look, Cam Williams was with the twos, and so he was on the varsity field, and he's competing for reps right now, and he's competing to be in the rotation. There's really no other story than that.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it is right now.
No ball came his way during 7-on-7 or team. So, didn't really get to talk about him.
Yeah. I mean, I think the two most targeted guys throughout the team period were probably Greathouse and Micah Gilbert, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so there was some underneath stuff that was specifically targeted towards Malachi Fields too. So those would be the 3.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Don't forget about that diving out of bounds catch by Jordan Faison.
Faison. I mean, he was targeted a couple of times, obviously, but just unfortunately nothing complete in bounds.
I couldn't believe they put that out as a highlight, but whatever. It's all good.
So Freeman was also asked, what's the next step for Leonard Moore after his breakout season?
Probably more than anything, he's in a position of leadership now. He's not the freshman that nobody knew about that just kind of came on the scene. There's an expectation in his position now, being one of the returning starters, being a guy that people know how talented of a player he is. Your job is to bring somebody with you. Right? And I want to see him help Mark Zachary and Dallas Golden and some of those young corners become better players. Like ultimately, that's probably more important than anything, man. If you put pressure on yourself to bring somebody along and to make this guy better, I often say leave this place better than you found it. That's more pressure than any accolade, any opponent, anybody else can put on you.
All right, so there's Marcus Freeman. So what do you think is the next step for Mr. Leonard Moore, guys?
I think for Leonard Moore, I think a lot of what Marcus Freeman obviously said is true. A guy that can now be a leader and a mentor for a lot of these younger guys and kind of, teach as best as possible. But, I think you have to say, I think for Leonard Moore, you just have to remain humble and stay hungry because you had so much success early on. I think when you're young and you have success, that can go to your head and you're like, well, I don't have to work as hard, or I'm already kind of at this level. I was a freshman All-American. There's hopes that he's going to be, a first-team All-American this season. So I think for him, you have to find ways to stay competitively hungry every practice and continue to get better, even though you've established yourself. And I think, another part of this, in my opinion, is he had the benefit of also playing on the field with other good secondary players. So, yes, he's had success, but he could be targeted more this season. Teams could try to scheme at him a little bit more. I know that might not be the case with Christian Gray opposite of you, but it just depends, per game plan. So I think for him, you have to find a way to stay competitive every practice and still find a way, to get better at the end of the day.
Yeah, what Jesse said. Look, it's a very young room, and he's only a sophomore, right? But he got a lot of playing time as a freshman. He's on all the All-America lists. He's a veteran now, and he needs to carry himself that way and help out everybody else in that room. That's the bottom line.
I thought it was interesting. I think you said this, Vince, when he was lined up across from Gilbert today. He makes Micah Gilbert, who is not a small guy by any means, he makes Micah Gilbert look small. Like Leonard Moore,
Yeah. Yep.
He is filled out from his friend. We talked about Anthony Knapp, but Leonard Moore has also filled out. And again, like when you throw in the length that he has and the length that he plays with and the physicality that allows him to play with, like that's to me is the next thing, is like becoming just that lockdown guy, like that no-fly guy that you don't want to throw at. Like Marcus Freeman obviously brings up great points because of the young guys in that room. Because if you look at the other guys, you've got Gray and Moore with the first team, you've got Golden, you've got Cree Thomas, and you've got Zachary out there. Those were the next 3 cornerbacks with the number 2 team. Like you wouldn't have known though, because they're so talented, like in the way we talked about how the secondary play, you wouldn't have known that they were true freshmen. So I think some of that from Leonard Moore is already rubbing off, along with the talent that those guys have come to school with so far.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They're both 6'2", one's 195, one's 205, and you couldn't have told the difference. And I got to say, Leonard Moore looked taller than 6'2" when he was standing next to Micah Gilbert.
He did.
He did. He does not look like the little freshman that he was. I shouldn't say little, because he wasn't little, but he doesn't look like the freshman who was just out there being an athlete and doing his thing. He looks like a veteran now. I mean, he's filled out. He carries himself differently. It's just, this is going to be a heck of a year for him.
We will revisit the bachelor party dilemma here in a minute. I want to get to
this is going to be an ongoing saga.
I know. I know.
This is why I brought it up. I feel like this is the
I think it's great.
Yeah, see? Good quality content here.
I want to hear what Marcus Freeman had to say about Tyler Buchner first. Buchner back in the quarterback room this fall after coming back to Notre Dame last year. Of course, he was a walk-on wide receiver, and he is playing quarterback now, and I just realized that I don't have that cut ready to go, so give me a second to vamp a little bit. Here we go.
Yeah, he's been itching to get back to that unit. You know, if you watch some of the wide receiver individual drills last year, he was throwing the ball, and you know, when Steve decided to leave, we felt like we wanted a little bit of experience to go into that room. His job is ultimately to make the room better, right? Make the room better and get better yourself. Right? And so I see him doing that. He's helping Blake, being a young freshman, working with Kenny and CJ in terms of through his experience, but also becoming a better player himself. And so I'm glad to have him back in there.
Tyler Buchner back in the quarterback room. Do you think he can be a big help to these two inexperienced guys?
Yeah, I mean, he played in high-pressure environments. You know, he played down at Alabama. Obviously, he played a few games with Notre Dame before getting, injured. He can at least provide insight and perspective of what it means to be a starting quarterback at big-time programs where there's a lot of expectations on you at the end of the day. And how do you go about yourself? How do you conduct yourself? How do you shoulder that expectation? How do you shoulder that stress? I think that obviously he's not going to be the starting quarterback and he's not as talented as Minchey and Carr, but there's other things that he can do to kind of be there along the way and provide support at the end of the day. And I think that's what being a great teammate is at the end of the day, knowing that, you might not be the guy, you had your chance. Now you're, a preferred walk-on lacrosse player, but what is he still doing to take time out of his day to help these guys out?
It's just a unique situation, right? I mean, He goes from being a highly touted quarterback coming in, being the starter at the University of Notre Dame, leaving to go to another school, and then coming back as a walk-on. He's got a bunch of, he's got a bunch to partake onto these kids. And I think that's really important. Kenny Minchey's the most veteran guy in the room, right? And he's never started a game at Notre Dame. So Tyler actually has a lot that he can give to these kids from hey, I was the starter. This is what you got to deal with. And, that kind of stuff.
I mean,
so
he helped Riley Leonard last year.
Exactly.
Like when you think about it that way, he helped Riley Leonard, who ended up taking, helping Notre Dame get to a national championship game. So for two young guys like this, I think that he can be just a huge resource. And obviously the way he carries himself and give them, just, it's almost like when like these NFL teams, when you bring in a Joe Flacco, for example. Now Flacco's a little bit different story this year, but like a couple years ago when he was in Cleveland and then he was with the Colts, it's like you bring in the old veteran to sort of be the mentor for these young guys. And that's kind of what Tyler Buchner is in this situation, is like he's got more experience than anyone else in the room. And he can be just a huge resource for these guys to help them prepare every week and, like sitting in the quarterback room, seeing different things that maybe they don't see and that kind of stuff. Jesse, the MLB trade deadline did pass about a half an hour ago, 35 minutes ago. Did the Cubs do anything of note before the deadline today?
They extended Jed Hoyer. You think I'm joking?
Happy. You're very happy is what you're saying.
So I've heard that this is where I'm stuck. I think it's a bad move to extend Jed Hoyer and not make any moves, knowing that the expectation was to make a lot of moves. But I understand their rationale. A lot of these guys were going for pretty pricey prospects, and the Cubs didn't want to get rid of their guys. They didn't want to sell the farm. To me, that shows that Kyle Tucker's not going to be back next year. So why sell the farm if Tucker's not going to be back? But, they picked up a couple pitchers. They picked up a super utility guy. But, I mean, you got the Mariners out there who acquired Eugenio Suarez and Mason Miller and J.P. Sears. So they made a big move. Carlos
Correa,
pieces,
not difference makers. Yeah,
basically, Carlos Correa is going back to the Astros. The Mets acquired Cedric Mullins, Adolis Garcia. Like the teams that were like the Phillies and the Mets made a lot of big moves because it felt like they were a contender. The Cubs have one of the best records in the league right now, and they did nothing basically. So just frustrating. And especially when you extended Jed Hoyer literally 2 days ago.
Vince, nothing to add.
I mean, I was
You're a
expecting
Cubs fan as well.
I was expecting something, and we got nothing, and it is what it is. Look, they got the best record in baseball or close to it with the roster that they have, and they've got some guys coming back off the IL. So, hey, I understand.
It's just a gamble. It's a roll of the dice.
It is a gamble.
It's not a good look in the eyes of the fans when
It's a gamble.
Are you really saying you want to go on a World Series run or
especially when you're neck and neck with your division rival? Right
not
now.
even neck, like you're neck and neck for the best record in baseball. You know,
right?
Like
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's a lot of people who think the Brewers are the best team in baseball even before the trade deadline, and they went on the. I mean, it's kind of been the Cubs' business plan.
Did the Brewers make any runs? Did they get anybody? Yeah, see.
the most active team in the division was the Reds. Actually, they got Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pirates, which I don't understand why the Pirates always trade within the division. I hate that. I think that's the dumbest thing. But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this because the last question is also fun.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like we've got a.
Uh-oh.
Which last question? Do you want to do that? I don't know if we've got enough time.
I don't think we got enough time.
I feel
The
like
last one I see is Ndamukong Suh.
Well, I feel like we can save that because I feel like your audience wants to readdress this bachelor party thing. Michael is saying, don't let a friendship die over the money because it's not worth it. I feel like you're between a rock and a hard place as the groom because it is largely out of your hands because as you know, the money was paid to the best man. He's the one who handled it. I mean, what are you supposed to do to rectify this? You can't be expected to dip into your own pocket and pay this guy $350 at this point.
Naomi said she'll strangle me by the neck if I pay this guy any money out of my pocket.
That's why I just say take him out to dinner and buy him a beer. Like that's the cheapest route.
So I think the driving factor in this, and maybe this is negligence on my part, the rest of the group is 29-30. This guy is still about 24-25. I don't know if that all plays into
You're robbing the cradle, Jesse. That's the problem.
I feel like he's not learned enough about how life actually works yet.
Deadlines and responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are bringing up, is this guy someone that you consider a lifelong friend? Let's just say if I moved, I don't think he would go out of his way to make sure that the friendship carries on.
Yeah.
Just saying.
There you go.
And I got friends all across the country. I got friends in Phoenix, North Carolina, Denver. We've all been friends for a long time. Vince, I got something funny. I don't know if you knew this. Shaq was at my bachelor party. If you would have came, we could have drawn up some plays in the backyard and got after it like the old days.
I did hear that he was a late arrival and kind of re-sparked the action.
He got very active at like midnight, and I was like, "What is a guy supposed to do here?" I gotta accompany the people who made the trek all the way here just for me.
Oh, it was great. I'm sure you asked him how his kicker's doing down there in Muncie, but
he actually had to go to Arizona for an internship with the Cardinals that following Monday.
By the way, reminder, Jesse, facilitate. Did Jesse ever pay up those dinners to?
No, I'm ready. You send me the bill and I'll pay for it. I haven't seen any invoices.
That's the first time you've ever said that.
That's accurate. That's accurate.
I've told Vince many times you could take the family to Culver's and send me the Venmo request.
Listen, I told your dad this, and we got to be quick. I'm giving you a pass until the wedding. You got a lot of expenses.
This is a fair man right here.
When it's over, I'm collecting.
We're going to wrap it up with that. Vince DeDario, Jesse Stires, Sean Stires. Day one of Notre Dame training camp. We'll have more tomorrow. We'll have another media availability after practice tomorrow. We'll get to see a little bit of practice. We'll be back to talk about that on tomorrow's show. We will talk to you then. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you later on Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.